Cette conférence va maintenant être enregistrée.
Oh, and then they added 128 members to the Peace is Possible global group. They invited everyone. And I've been watching all of the projects that have been happening across Madagascar, and it's incredible. It's really incredible. I'm really excited to see that, especially because I've been looking at some of the data here in Madagascar. And so the work that you do is really has a lot of value for building positive peace. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if everyone wants to present himself, you can.
Siham finally joined us. She had a problem in connection, so welcome, Siham.
Welcome.
Siham,
Thanks.
okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Ines Saidan, Vice President charged by training and development of JCI from Tunisia. I'm so happy to be with you guys, and thank you, Ashley, for accepting the invitation. Nice to meet you. I'm so happy to be with you, and thank you. Enjoy.
Thank you. I'm very excited to have leaders here from Tunisia because 5 years ago, Faris Ben Sula came here when doing a job at Microsoft. He was doing a radio competition. He was doing some sort of competition, and he delivered a training to the chapter that I had chartered here. And we had terrible problems with our internet and getting people together on a live stream. So I'm really excited to return the favor to Tunisia, and that our internet and our video conferencing is much more advanced. So that's really awesome news.
Thank you.
So Amina, could you introduce yourself? Or Siham Bashra?
Bonjour Sumaya.
Bonjour. Est-ce que tu peux te présenter?
Oui Sumaya, mais est-ce que je peux parler en français s'il te plaît? Mon anglais n'est pas bien.
Je peux traduire par la suite. Okay.
Alors bonjour tout le monde, je me présente, c'est Amina, directrice du pôle formation de la GCI Grand Ouarzazate. Je tiens à remercier la formatrice d'avoir accepté d'animer cette formation et ça fait plaisir de collaborer avec les autres OLM. Merci.
So it was Amina from GCI Grand Ouarzazate, and she's very happy to have you today in this forum, and also she's happy to collaborate with the other GCI to organize this forum.
Merci Sumaya.
Bienvenue. Bienvenue? Bienvenue.
Sumaya?
Is that how you say welcome? How do you say welcome in French?
Welcome in French.
Soyez les bienvenus.
Bienvenue.
Bienvenue.
Awesome. Fantastic.
So what about you, Aza Dali? Could you introduce yourself? First, if you know all the GCI, African GCI, could you please call one of each one to present his GCI and his function?
I'm doing
Sumaya?
it now, so no one is answering.
Sumaya, c'est Siham.
Siham, okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Siham Bashra, a local representative of the GCI Grand Ouarzazate, Morocco. I will say thank you of the organization, to all organization and animator. And I will thank all the participants to being here and assist this.
Welcome.
So, if there are another person that wants to introduce himself, if not, I present myself. I'm Sumaya. I'm the VPHD training. I'm the VP of Growth Development and Training in GTI Casablanca, and I'm so happy to that Ashlea accepted my invitation to be our guest today and to represent Peacebuilding in Africa. Ashlea Elliott, she's the founder of the Peace is Possible Global Peace Coalition, and she's the GCI Global Program Manager and GTI USA National Program Manager. We have a lot of pleasure to have you today, and also I am very thankful for all for the collaboration with all the GTI for Africa, and hope that you will enjoy today the presentation of the Peace is Possible in Africa.
Thank you so much for the welcome. I do want to let everyone know that I am I'm partially deaf, and so if you can mute your microphones. And also, when you have questions today, I won't be able to hear you very well. Please type in the chat box if you're able to. If you're not currently using a computer and you need to say it out loud, that's fine, but then I'll be able to read it because I won't be able to hear you. Okay. Awesome. So I'm so excited to be part of this conversation and part of the African Forum today. So I very much appreciate the outreach and the invitation. And for the last few weeks, I've been putting together some resources because we know that people believe that peace is possible. We know that across the African continent, people are really, really motivated. For the last 4 years, I've been working with leaders from every country across Africa, except for maybe 2 or 3, who have really come together to show that peace is possible, whether it's through the I Am Africa campaign, whether it's through World Cleanup Day or other initiatives to promote peace, and also to kind of bring in other members of the community. And so today's conversation is going to be focusing on how to build peace in a pandemic. And something I want to let everyone know is that the Peace is Possible Global Peace Coalition is bigger than the Peace is Possible initiative that was started by JCI World President Pascal Dike in 2016 from Nigeria. And so that program, that initiative has really moved forward, and people have used the fantastic resources available. And so what I've done over the last few years is build a coalition on top of that foundation that he built. And so the Peace Coalition right now includes Peace One Day, the Accord program, which is based in South Africa, which does all of the global peace, intergenerational peace dialogues. I know that there's been multiple across Africa, the Gambia, Ghana, Morocco, all over, who've had these really incredible conversations where they bring together people from all different sectors. So they're a partner. And on Peace Day last year, Peace Day is on September the 21st. It's a single day of collective action for peace building across the world. Together, this peace coalition had more than 785 million people participate. And so this year was really special because as a coalition, we had the partners, which was, we had Peace One Day, which I'll point you to the direction to, but they're the ones who were able to work with the United Nations in order to get a single day of peace. So they had a huge, huge, huge social campaign and reached people all over the world. They reached almost 2 billion people. They just did an incredible job. And then for the World Cleanup Day, I saw so many organizations and partners across Africa who participated that day. they had almost 50 million people participate. And so because it's a coalition of all the different partners, what I've done is tried to connect people who have common interests across every continent. So some people have a really strong interest in gender equality. Some people have a really strong interest in climate. And so if you're able to, now or after this session, you all have access to a free online learning platform that I built so that everyone who is part of this coalition will be able to access the resources. And I recognize that this presentation is going across African continent, and I realize that there's connectivity as well as electricity barriers that people face to access digital resources. So I want to let people know that this is a progressive web application, that people who live in a low connectivity area or anywhere, you can, when you go to log on, if you log on from a mobile device, you can say add to the home screen. It doesn't download anything that takes up space on your phone, but it creates an offline version that you can use until the next time you're able to have access to broadband. And so for anyone who is often finding themselves in a place where they'd want to do a training on sustainable development goals or human rights or how to build peace, you have access to this, and all of the people who are in your community, in your organization, have access to this as well. It's free, and it will continue to be free for everyone who's interested in using it. And if you have any questions, let me know. There's also, I posted in the chat box, we started out, the Peace is Possible Global Community for this coalition started out with people who I had met at other Peace is Possible peace coalitions and JCI events. And over the last few years, we've been able to expand to 166 countries, including all, but I said 3 in the African continent. And there's people from all over the world. So if you have an interest in finding out what leaders around the world are doing to build peace, you have access to that information here. And right now, especially as we focus on how to build peace in the pandemic, which I love talking about this, you can share what people are doing in your community, and you can also ask questions or find out resources that maybe you don't have direct access to. And so the goal is really to democratize information and make sure that the social goods that I have access to, that everyone has access to, but I'll curate them for you so that, especially if you have low connectivity or low electricity, you don't have to spend the time, invest the time in getting access and trying to navigate where things are. I'm going to put them all in this centralized resource for you. For example, right now, I've been working with one of the members from Ethiopia who's been doing a hackathon, so trying to get more and more information about what people across the African continent can do to get access to information about coronavirus. How do you protect yourself? How do you protect your community? What are the symptoms? What do you know? And so that was an event that came in, and I was able to share that through other these different networks. And so also, if you have resources, if there's something really working in your community, then you can share that in the group, and then it'll be amplified across the world. So there's also, when you go to join the Facebook group, everyone's going to be asked 2 questions. The first one is, do you accept the rights of others? And the second is, do you think it's a good idea to meet people from different countries? And so, especially having this as an international training, just by joining the group, you have to say yes to these 2 questions, and that's your pandemic peace pledge. So whenever you do that, I appreciate you taking the pandemic peace pledge. And so when it comes to, let's see if I can do this. When it comes to understanding peace, a lot of people have the information that, you know, peace is not just the absence of violence, but also that within your communities, you have justice, you have equitable distribution of resources, and that people are not excluded from meeting their basic needs. And so I wanted to make sure that everyone has information about the different types of violence, because it's really important. One thing that I've learned about going across the world and understanding the questions that people had about peace is possible was that peace is a very abstract concept. And so when people were being asked to build peace in their communities, what I found was they would say that they would be open to building peace, but it wasn't concrete information that people could use. And so what I wanted to make sure everyone understands is that it is concrete. There are structures. There are things that are visible and tangible. And so there's 3 types of violence that I want everyone to understand. This is a slide that's available. All these slides are available on the website. I'll also make sure that they're available to you later on. But the first is at the top, which is direct violence. And so most often when we think about building peace and making sure that we reduce violence, we're thinking about direct violence. Direct violence is the most visible of the 3 different types of violence, and it includes things like killing, sexual assault, bullying. It also includes torture and different types of domestic and internal terrorism. And so you can think of it as an action. So it's an action that you can often see. And so if you want to get people to stop fighting because they're having armed conflict, this is in the area of direct violence. And what's really different about the Peace is Possible Global Peace Coalition is that what we're going to focus on is structural violence and cultural violence. So direct violence, not only is it an action, but the purpose of the violence is to prevent someone from meeting a basic need, like you're going to keep someone away from living if you kill them, or you're trying to block someone to doing something that they need right away to continue being a human, to continue living and thriving. But structural violence, across the world, structural violence kills more people every single day than direct violence. And so does cultural violence. And so I'm really excited to talk about this, especially to a Pan-African audience on World Malaria Day. And so structural violence is that there's policies, procedures, attitudes, and beliefs about inequality. So cultural violence means that people have beliefs that certain people over time, so cultural violence is its beliefs, attitudes, and social norms that make direct and structural violence seem natural. So gender inequality, or if you have people in your community who happen to be of a particular social group or have maybe a disability or potentially have a different religion or mother tongue or belief system, and those people are not able to access maybe schools or health services, but there's no other reason other than people have a strong belief or attitude that those individuals do not need access or that they do not deserve, that the inequalities that they face is a natural thing. And that's a really big part of what the Peace is Possible Global Peace Coalition focuses on. The second is when there are laws or policies or even the way that your community is set up so that certain people are just blocked from having access to certain amenities or certain things that should be available to everyone. And so both structural violence and cultural violence work together to create a lot of barriers that really shouldn't exist. And so, for example, on World Malaria Day, malaria is a preventable and treatable disease. There are solutions that help people. So there's bed nets, insecticide, treated bed nets, as well as like indoor residual spraying. There's all different types of technologies to help with the vector control. But the reason that malaria persists is because we allow it to exist and we allow it to continue impacting the lives of millions of people. But if we were to take action, so I work with the United Nations Foundation for the last 9 years, and we're working very hard to make sure that people on the outside do not forget this is this could be eliminated for different communities who happen to have this as an endemic part of their lives. And so as we're talking about COVID and how to build peace in a pandemic, these 2 different kind of conversations about structural violence and cultural violence, when it comes to the equitable distribution of resources in your community, whether that is face masks or whether it is that people have running water to wash their hands, or that it's that people have access to electricity and broadband so that they can get information about how to protect themselves and what the symptoms are and where to go. And then also how it goes to whether or not people in your community, whether all people have access to health resources. And so in some places in the world, there is one physician or one nurse for tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And there are some countries who are represented in this, potentially on this call, who that there's just no health infrastructure. And the fact that there's no health infrastructure and that there's not these solutions available to everyone equitably, that's structural violence. And so it's really important that during this kind of conversation, when we think about how people are accessing things, especially in a pandemic, there's the 5 basics. So food, water, electricity, housing, healthcare, and then there's also the 6th, which is education. A lot of people where I am in the United States, they've been told they send the children home, and now the children are at home learning. All the people who have jobs have been sent home. Everyone's been told to stay at home. But what if the house doesn't have electricity and the house doesn't have running water for people to wash their hands? It doesn't have the things that people need in order to do what they're being asked to do. And so those are different forms of structural violence. And the reason that they exist is a combination of the beliefs that people have, and also the way that organizations and policies and governments and institutions are structured. Also, different levels of corruption that are happening right now. This is very important. I'll talk a little bit more about it in a while, but if this pandemic continues to move forward for a longer period of time, especially as there's combinations of, depending on where you are, drought, famine, food shortages, the rainy season, depending on kind of where you are, there's going to be even more competition for resources than there was before this pandemic. And the way that people respond to that, the way that people have access to the things that they need, what you can do individually as peace builders is to address that, and is to see when it's happening and find out ways to address it, because you'll be able to recognize it. Does anyone have any questions about the 3 types of structural violence? Add them to the chat and I'll be happy to answer. Give everyone a second. Is there any questions about what I just mentioned?
So if you have a question, you can just talk or leave it in the chat. I think everything is clear that for the moment. And just a question for the structured violence. So what we can do, it's for example, use the resource that you have in the peace and global community, and use it as something that we can do in our community to limit the violence and to control the violence here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And so the next is, what is peace? And so there's 2 different types of peace. There's both negative peace and positive peace. Negative peace is more related to, it's a combination of that direct violence and some structural violence. And this is measured by the Institute of Economics and Peace. And so it includes levels of societal safety and security. So do you feel safe going outside your home? Would you feel safe walking alone at night? Are there places in your community that you need to avoid because they're particularly unsafe? This can also include whether or not people feel safe going to a restroom. So some places have restrooms that's a community restroom. You know, do you have access to that, or do you feel unsafe going in at different times of the day? The second, for negative peace, is the extent of ongoing domestic and international conflict. And so what's really important to, as a takeaway for this particular part, is if your neighbors are in conflict, then that creates kind of a regional spike in negative peace. And this is something that I've seen happen recently in the Sahel region with Boko Haram. And I've been working with people in Niger, Nigeria, Cameroon, and a few other areas who've really had extreme conflict that's really crossing over the borders by Boko Haram. And they're kind of popping up. So that would be an example of the ongoing domestic and international conflict. And the third is the degree of militarization. And so one of the ways they calculate this is how much how many people are part of the military as well as the police force in your community, how much money that the whole country spends each year, earns each year, is spent on military. And the second factor is how much they spend on peace. I live in the United States, which is the most militarized, other than North Korea and potentially Russia. Our rank in that area is terrible. The second type is positive peace, and I love positive peace, and the Peace is Possible Global Peace Coalition, and we're going to talk today about positive peace, because positive peace is something that individuals can influence a little bit easier than some of those negative peace factors, because those are more structural and institutional. So the first is the acceptance of the rights of others. The next is the equitable distribution of resources, like we've been talking about. Good relationships with neighbors, which we're all here from different places in the world, so we're building good relationships with neighbors. And we're also having this event during Ramadan, and so learning a little bit more about and making sure that this training was designed to fit in before sunset. Well-functioning government, low levels of corruption, like we mentioned, and free flow of information, which is why I have the application, to make sure that information is available to people. Free flow of information is particularly important right now with the pandemic, because in some places in the world, the government has prevented people from sharing information about the pandemic, as well as what you can do, how you can respond, how you can protect yourself, what the symptoms are, and where to go. In other places, you have such a deterioration in the broadband service, electricity. Maybe you both have a really poor government. It's not a very strong government, and then you also have a difficult time getting the information out to the people. And so that's why there's a ton of resources right now how to share information equitably. Sound business environment is a really big part of positive peace. And so I wanted to show you what peace looks like across the world. So this is a snapshot. So there's they measure it, the negative peace in the world, in the peace index, the global peace index. And so this is a picture of the entire world. So the darkest of greens, so Canada, Australia, Ireland, Iceland, they have really strong levels of, they have the highest rankings when it comes to this particular type of peace. They're doing the best. They're in the least conflict. They have the most peace. Then we have light green. So we have a couple places in Africa. So we have Madagascar. There's a couple of other places that have really strong levels of peace when they consider the negative peace factors. Then you have a few who are in the medium range, on each coast. And then you also see the deteriorations when it comes to the clusters of orange and red. And so that is what it looks like. Here's a closer glimpse of the African continent according to the Global Peace Index for 2019. And what I love is to not only focus on this negative piece, but also to talk about those positive peace indicators that we just mentioned. So the acceptance of the rights of others, the good relationship with neighbors, etc. And so here's the snapshot of what positive peace looks like around the world. And here again, the darkest of colors means that you have very strong levels of positive peace. And then the next color down is people who have high levels. This level here, this blue, this beautiful cluster of blues is medium levels. And then the light blue, which is a huge cluster across certain, kind of the center of the African continent, and a little bit down here. This is low levels of positive peace.
Ashlea, I'm sorry, I have just a question. Did you share something in the screen or?
Have I not been sharing the screen? I thought I was sharing the screen.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing the screen this whole time. I'm so sorry. Hold on. Let me go back.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, everyone. I thought that you were receiving that the whole time.
It's okay.
All right, hold on. Let me see if I can do this.
In the
I'm
screen.
so sorry.
There is no problem. In the down of the screen, you just
In the middle, next to
just
camera.
middle, yeah.
I'm sorry. This whole time I've been showing you all these beautiful visuals. Okay, let me go back a little bit.
Okay.
Can you see this? I'm sorry. I'm a newbie at this platform. So this
It's
whole time I've
okay.
been showing
Okay.
you.
Now it's okay. Now we can see it.
I'll show you all these. I'm so sorry. So this was the direct violence. Thank you for letting me know. I'll send these out to you. So when I was talking about the direct violence versus the cultural violence and structural violence being invisible, I'll send these slides out as far as levels of safety and security for negative peace, the extent of ongoing violence, militarization, and then I'll share all of these with you as well. So that's the acceptance of the rights of others. And I'll share these all with everyone so that you can use them in your communities when you want to build peace. Thank you so much for letting me know I was talking to nothing on my screen. Okay. Can you all see this? Try to make it bigger. Are you able to see this image?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's you.
Okay, I'll try to say that again. Okay. Okay. So here's the Global Peace Index, which I was mentioning. And so red, areas that have red is the lowest levels. So that means that it's a place that has the highest levels of conflict. And so you see that here in a cluster, as well as a couple of standalone locations on the African continent. Here's a closer look. And so this is an area, so you can see that there's, when it comes to orange, which is the low levels of peace, that they come in clusters over here in the areas that are dealing with Boko Haram. But that regionally, you have kind of a combination of folks that have high levels of peace and relatively low levels of violence. Madagascar is green. There's a couple of really strong showings. So Mauritius, Ghana, Madagascar, and I want to say Botswana, but there's a couple of other places I can send you the list that are doing really well on this particular indicator. And here is the positive peace of the world. So that acceptance of the rights of others, strong government, free flow of information. And so around the world, you have some pockets like Australia and Canada and Western Europe that has the highest levels of positive peace. But on the African continent, there's another regional display. And so this light blue area is low levels of positive peace. And that's areas where people are trying to work really hard to strengthen those 8 different pillars of positive peace. But you also have some very high, or you have high levels and very high levels, which is the dark blue. And so there's some places in Africa that are doing really, really well. And I've been watching the trends for the last few years. And so Nigeria is has one of the lowest. It's in the bottom 10, and they've been having kind of the hardest time when it comes to measuring the negative piece. But you can see that they're in the side by side. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
we can see it.
I'm worried now, so I want to make sure. What's really interesting is that there are some places, so Zimbabwe is a really good example of where this has gone really well. And so there's some places that might be red or orange or yellow, so high, so they might be medium levels of peace, low levels of peace, or very low levels of peace by the Global Peace Index. But and so what's important about that map is that means like those structural elements, like what the government is doing, whether or not you have conflict, if you're at war. But then on the positive peace side, which is the blue map, African African states are doing very well building up their internal interpersonal relationships so that they're driving changes. So the states that are light blue right now have been working really hard to strengthen their levels of positive peace. And some of the places have just completely gone off the charts and have really transformed over the last few years. And I'll send some information about what each country's side-by-side comparisons of global peace index rating and positive peace index rating are. But individuals, so in your JCI organizations, you can build positive peace. And during this pandemic, you can also build positive peace, which is on this blue side, even if your state is falling apart or they're in conflict or there's low levels of safety or high levels of corruption. And so I really like looking at them separately because this is the potential that people can address. And so earlier this year, just because I mentioned Nigeria, I worked with one of the teams who was interested in addressing corruption directly. And so what I was able to express is that when you have a strong structure of corruption, or if you have a very weak centralized government, or if there's a lot of difficulties having a sound business environment, you may not be able to affect that directly, but you can affect it over here on the positive peace side. And so that's what I love about training leaders on how to build peace. Does anyone have something in their community that kind of came up for you during this conversation about the different types? I'll show them again. Do you feel like in your community there's a strong acceptance of the rights of others? Do you feel, can you see? Am I showing?
I think for us in Morocco, we have this acceptance of rights of each other. So each person, they respect the other's rules. So we have some violence with women violence beside women's, but it's not very it's not with an important I forgot my English. It's just a little in a little regions that we have that. Now in 2018, it's becoming more with some respect and without violence, because we have a lot of communities that they are making a lot of things for women, for violence behind women. So for us in Morocco, I think we have this acceptance for the rules of each others.
Amazing. And so that's it. Thank you so much for sharing that. So the gender-based violence is structural violence and cultural violence. And right now we're seeing across the planet a very strong response during this pandemic, and it's causing positive peace. These 8 pillars, they work well when can you all see my face, or can you only see my screen?
Yes, we see it. Okay. I want just to add something that yes. In this period of pandemic, I am very proud of my Morocco, because all people they are working on solidarity. They are helping others and making preparing something to others, or just giving monies for a person that can't that doesn't have enough money to live. And also our governments, they did a lot of things for the Moroccan communities just to control this pandemic. So I'm very proud that I am Moroccan, because before we was very obsessed about our government, but in this period we are very proud of the government, but because they did a lot of things to control this coronavirus pandemic.
Thank you so much. Would anyone like to share something that's related to positive peace that's doing well in your community? Or the other examples? Good relationships with neighbors.
I did not.
Oh, so I was wondering, so these are the different pillars of positive peace: the well-functioning government, good relationship with neighbors, the low level of corruption.
I think for others in Africa who wants to share with us what happened. Yeah, we want to know what happened in the other countries in Africa.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear from anyone else. The other is sound business environment. So does anyone else have an example?
For Madagascar, I think Madagascar it's a quite country. If you can share with us what happened in this period in Madagascar. I think we have
Yes, right now in Madagascar, I'm kind of proud of my country because a lot of people are, I mean, they they don't try to do huge things, but they do it at their level. For example, everyone tried to share how to make some mask, like normal mask, and every every mamas in their house try to make as much as they can, as many masks as they can, and try to share it around in the communities. And also we can notice that many associations like young people or women associations or something like that, we are trying, even JCI, we are trying to build something together to share to the public institutions, for example at the hospital, because in Nosibe, for example, we have very bad situation at the hospital. We don't have materials at all, and we're trying to find a way to help those people. Um, and we want to involve everyone, the public. I mean, the public institutions like the mayor and everyone, so that we can help those people and also help everyone in the communities, and also for I mean entreprise like hotels, because Nosibe is a touristic island. We definitely live from tourism, and right now it's very hard for us because there is no tourists, of course, national and international. We don't have anyone, and it's the economy is collapsing in here, and it's very hard. It's very hard every day, but some hotels, for example, or some institutions, some people try to raise funds everywhere so that everyone can help each other, to help the employees, to help people who always have to work. And also the government is also trying to do something, trying to give financial help and also give what people need the most, like rice, sugar, oil, something like that, and to share it in all the communities. And of course, this I mean, I know all the world has been looking at us since the president has announced about the remedy for coronavirus. But anyway, we are used to that because since long time ago we are used to take like those kind of thing, plants, and for people who don't have access to drugs at the drugstore, we use that. And yeah, I think that we're quite good in building peace and helping people. But when we talk about corruption, it's still there, because we have also to admit that it exists here. And a few weeks ago, when the government has started to share things in the public universities, um, we were very sad to admit and to notice that uh, some help to give to the students. They were supposed, for example, to get one kilogram of rice. They have, I can even say, the half, less than half of it, and we're wondering where are these gone. So we still have that kind of thing, but we're doing our best, and it's great to see that everyone is getting involved to try to find a way to get over this pandemic.
Thank you so much for sharing.
That's all I can say. Thank you.
That's good and important. And I think also our friends from Tunisia, they are doing a great job in this period as JCI to the JCI to the community. And I hope that Nauras can share with us what they are doing in this period to bring.
I want to share my opinion about this and my experience with GCI in Tunisia. And so here in Tunisia, we are trying to help people that they don't have work, they don't have a job anymore. So we try to help them with food and other things they need. And more than that, we are trying to raise awareness about peace with these workshops and trainings online, and trying to let people have fun even in their houses, to keep in this quarantine. And with these online trainings, we're trying to help the government and make them sorry. So yeah, that's it.
Is that a call to prayer?
Sorry?
What is that sound? What is that sound in the background?
This is a Quran, yes. This is a Quran. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Would anyone else like to say about things that are going really well in your community for positive peace, or things that you have that is a big concern?
Yeah, actually, I want to share something. Like this is Nurse Nehmiya GCI Mokni. So from our country and our GCI, we did a lot of volunteering actions and projects. Like we organized every like first period of this pandemic, we organized people how to the meter distance between people in the market or in the post or on the banks, to avoid like the crowd between them and how to say the virus going to from one people to other. And we actually did the mask thing, like okay, it's like a little bit, but we are able to create I don't know, 5,000 or 10,000 masks to of course it's gonna be free for all people who doesn't have like the money to buy it. And also thanks to our engineer, we have a lot of engineer in our GCI, so we create like a little house, a little cabinet of disinfection, and everyone get through it. It can how to say, disinfect it and go out. So the virus is not gone on it. So we put it on a big market to avoid like getting the virus from one to other and getting inside the market that virus. So also we are working on a lot of other projects, and everyone is like just thinking about how to help. And this is the amazing thing I was seeing, that everyone is having a group of people asking how to help, what do we need to do, what we need to share, and this is just amazing.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's incredible.
You're welcome.
What I want to mention about positive peace and these 8 different pillars is, when you're coming up with ideas for projects and ways to help and how to build peace in a pandemic, right now we're in a shock. And so I always train leaders about the different types of shocks that you can have into a system. And so trying to see if I have something that will work. So for positive peace to work, all 8 of the pillars need to be in balance. And so you need to have acceptance of the rights of others, strong business, strong government, equitable distribution of resources, free flow of information. Then the other is high levels of human capital. And so what really needs to happen is everything has to be level. And throughout the world, there's always shocks. And so shocks are things that can hit your system. It could be an economic shock where your currency has been devalued to almost nothing, and maybe your banking system has fallen apart. I know that in several countries represented on this call, your currency had either hyperinflation or super devaluation. So that's a shock. You can also have a climate-related or natural disaster incident, which has happened most recently on Eastern African shores. So you could have like a cyclone or a drought, and so those are shocks as well. And you can have a terrorist attack, you can have acts of violence, you could have really like maybe some very strong violence or really bad policy, or maybe there's some news that there's high levels of corruption and your election didn't really count. And so each of these is a shock. And so what positive peace does is it helps weave everyone together so that when the shocks come, and they're always going to come, that you can, as a society, as a community, and as a global community, that it can withhold the shocks. And so what's really difficult, and so what is happening and what happens is that if there are low levels of positive peace and your hands are not intertwined and all 8 are not working together, when a shock comes, you're going to collapse. It's going to break through and it's going to collapse. And so what's really important is that right now we're in a skew. It's in a skew where even places who over here on this map have darker blue, but especially places that have lighter blue, which is lower levels of positive peace, it means that when everyone is losing their jobs, if they had jobs, or they don't have access to food, or the business environment has completely collapsed, or your government is really in a tumultuous time, or there's corruption, what's happening right now is it's a super shock. And if your country is not darker blue on this map, it won't be able to handle this as well, because this is what's called like a super shock. And so in the United States, as an example, because we're awful people, people went to the stores and took all the toilet paper and they took all the food so that they could have it and other people couldn't have it. They took all the diapers for babies. And they just took as many as they could and brought them home for themselves, and they just kept them for themselves. And they were not thinking about the other people and their needs, who could maybe only buy one diaper pack. And so when it comes to like food distribution, people took all the food, and then the people who, because they don't have income, you have people then that have to make very difficult choices. And so if you don't have food, how can you stay at home when you have to leave home in order to get food? Or, you know, and so once you have kind of cracks in the positive peace, so once your strong business environment goes down, and then the equitable distribution of resources is going to go down. And so it's kind of a domino effect where everything can kind of start going through. And so you can reinforce it. And so the way that positive peace works, how to build peace in a pandemic, is doing exactly what the people on this call are talking about. And it's building that solidarity, and it's looking for those needs that other people have. And it's also looking at the needs that people in your community have that they can't meet, those basic needs that they have, or you recognizing that a certain population, depending on where you live, maybe people who are older, people with disabilities, or people from a certain social group, or women or children, someone who's not getting the food that they need in order to stay safe. People who don't have access, again, to hand washing, sanitation, energy as well as water, what do you do in those situations? Can you get those basic needs to people to prevent further shocks to the system? And I love the other people who are talking about like the engineering ideas and the way that you're trying to help get information out. And that's really important. How do you get the information out to people who you know don't have access to it? And so if you can recognize that there is not free flow of information to a certain group, then you know that that's a potential risk that you can address. And so each of the things for positive peace is a risk that as leaders, you can devise a plan of how to address directly. So those people that didn't have face masks, I'm curious what's going to happen and where the people have rice. Is there a way to get the other half of the rice to the students who didn't get their rice? And so I'd love to hear your ideas about what do you think would work in your communities right now that hasn't been tried yet, or what do you see as a risk that you're really worried about? And I'll see if I can find resources in my network to help. So what are you really, which of those positive peace pillars are you really the most, what's the biggest risk to you or your community right now that you need help with?
Guys,
Hi there.
Nawras, you want to talk?
no, just we're telling guys to be active.
Okay.
Are there any other,
Anyone want to share something?
yeah, anything that you are, so what I'd like to do is then I can also ask other resources who are in the area, see what else might already be happening that to connect people. What are you most worried about during this pandemic? What worries you the most in your community?
Sumaya?
No.
Yes,
Sumaya?
you can talk. You can talk.
I saw that the principal risk is surviving with dignity, and the economic system will be affected, and many people will be in the future losing her jobs, and persons will be changed in her personality and priorities.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Can I?
Please.
Yeah. In here, as I said earlier, as we depend a lot on tourism, because Nusibe is the far destination. I mean, the first destination, touristic destination in Madagascar. Um, it's very difficult again because people are losing their job. We're lost, and we're very worried about how long it's gonna last because the government can't always, I mean, the government can always help us like for indefinite time, and people are worried about what they will do because as they lost their job and there's like nothing else to do. We of course we have like fishing, but not everybody can do that, and we start to notice like um, a rising level of violence in the city, people robbing, and even sometimes it can end up with people dying after an attack. And I think we're worried about that a lot in here in Madagascar, and we don't know what to do because we don't have the economic solution to that. We don't know how to help people to find money. That's our issues here.
Mm-hmm. Anyone for sharing that?
For us in
Hello?
Morocco, we have the same problem like Madagascar. All people that are losing their job, now they are now afraid about how it will be in the future. Especially people who has the small jobs, not the small job that doesn't have enough money to live and to help their family to live. So for entrepreneurship people here in Morocco, they are working on digitalization of their organization to deal about what's happening now. We have a lot of people of entrepreneurs that they are passing to digitalize their services to be more more present in the social media and to be more present with their customer, even if we have this pandemic period. And for the governments, they are helping these people who are the small jobs by giving them, for example, 100 dirhams by month to live, but it's not enough if the family has a lot of person in their family. It's not enough for them. What I see here, for example, in Casablanca, people who have the small jobs, they are still in they still working, so they still going to search something to eat, even if there is a risk for them, and there is no prevention to prevent what can happen and what can happen for their family. By they are risking that because they don't have something to eat. This is all the problems that we have, and I think for all the African countries, they have the same problem. For people who are working who are more cultural, more in the they have some competency, some skills, and they are present in the cultural side. They are working on digitalizing their services, but for the others, they can't do that. They are just waiting to what will be happening in the future.
Amazing, thank you. Would anyone else like to share some things happening in your community or concerns that you have?
Hello.
Hello.
For me, besides the economic problem in Tunisia, there will be a big problem with the education system, since they couldn't finish this year. So it will affect with the next year, and affect the government will not be able to deal with it. It will be hard for them, and it will affect the students too. This is my opinion.
Yes, really, we have the same problem because of people who are in the rural region. So they don't have internet. They have just, for example, television, and they serve education programs in televisions. But I don't think that it's it's very efficient to be educated by the television. So for people who are in a good level of living, they can continue their education. But for people who live in the rural region, it's so difficult for them.
Has anyone seen the materials that the schools would have go towards the television, or is that not an option? Like the programs that would go on the television, has anyone seen, for those families that do not have connection to the internet, has anyone seen programs on the television that are educational as if they were the services from the schools, or no?
I didn't understand the question. What was the question?
Sure. The question is, are there any places that you've heard of that, because they know the children in the rural areas don't have internet, where they've put the school education resources through the TV instead of?
Yes, it's that. Yes, because
Yes,
now rural people that doesn't have internet, so that's why they put the education services in the television.
yes, here in Tunisia.
Also, Sumaya,
Yeah.
I can add also, I am a professor in a primary school. There is the equality between students. More than 40% in my students, they're not able to participate in courses because they don't have a smartphone or connections, and it is very sad.
Thank you for sharing that. Is that also in Morocco or is Tunisia?
Yes, there is in Tunisia too a program in TV for students, but I think it's not that interesting, or I don't know how to express it. I think most of the students don't participate on it. That's the problem.
Okay. Yeah, this is some very very challenging moments. It's very challenging moments. And so a couple of things that can be done, you know, someone earlier mentioned that when people are losing their jobs, or, you know, we haven't even mentioned the people who are very sick, and what the experience of the people and the families of people who are very sick have been. But I also know that this is the season of Ramadan. We just passed through the season of Passover as well as Easter, and there's lots of different religions and faiths and celebrations that happen. How are people going about? I think that there's is it called a fjor, FJOR, where you have a really long table at the end of Ramadan's day where you all come together and eat. How has that changed some of your cultural practices, not being able to interact with other people? What are people doing for these different types of cultural events? Are you able to connect?
I think there is Sani Babatuned. He want to talk. So if you can talk, Sani.
Please.
Sani, do you hear me, Sani, or not? He's asking about the question. So if you can repeat the question, he will.
Sure. Thank you. So my question is, how have you been able to interact with your neighbors during this different type of season where there might be cultural events or even faith-based events, or even just that you want to see other people? How are you handling having to be alone when typically you'd be around so many other people? What are people doing to connect with their neighbors and to connect with other people? Kind of like this call, you know, where we're having a Zoom call. Are people having Zoom calls? Are they coming together and standing far apart? What are people doing in your community? What does it look like on the ground? And how has it changed things for you from what things are typically like?
So, for example, for us here with the GCI community, we connect with Zoom, using Zoom for trainings or for just making a game. We connect in the night, and we make the society games between us to enjoy and to feel that we are in a family, even if we are alone. For example, for me, I'm staying alone at this period because my parents are in other city, so I don't feel alone because of this training session, and also because of the game session that that I do with my friends, and also when calling my family, I call them one time by day, so I don't feel alone, even if we are just staying at home. So it's like it's one of the activities that we are doing in this time to don't have these routines, and to don't feel that we are alone in this pandemic period.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to comment?
Everyone.
Hi.
Just an answer to your question: what do we do? What do we do right now to connect with our friends from different parts of the world, or different parts of the same city, or different parts of the same country? In GCE Ouarzazate, in GCE Grand Ouarzazate, we have been organizing a lot of trainings, online trainings through different platforms such as Zoom and Hangouts, Google Hangouts, and it was amazing. For most of the times, these trainings were aiming at developing the personalities of our members. And of course, here we would like to thank our president, Mrs. Siham, and of course, the trainers who struggled a lot to present these trainings online. And as I said, these trainings were aiming at developing members' personalities, and of course, I benefited from a lot of them, and they were amazing. Thank you.
That's amazing.
Okay. Let me also make a. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let me also make some intervention as regard your question. I think this pandemic period has been able to give us leverage on in the use of technology. For instance, in Nigeria, where I am, 3 states is currently on lockdown by federal government pronouncement. And one of those 3 states I'm currently living in. So for the past almost 4 weeks now, we cannot go out of our houses. So as organization within the community, so we now begin to use leverage on the technology to connect our members in terms of training, in terms of helping our businesses to grow even when the lockdown, when the pandemic is on, because we also realize that a lot of people actually stays within our neighbors require one form of services so that they can make their stays in their houses worldwide, even when the pandemic is on. So I felt that this pandemic period has given us much more time to interact with our neighbors, either physically for the people that will stay within the same area, and people that even stay in the different aspects, because you have we leverage on the technology to connect our members. Thank you.
Thank you. That's exciting. Has anyone been posting a sign on their windows or doors or where you live or in your community about connecting? Has anyone done anything like that that's very visible with the public or asked them to participate? You're muted.
Visual with the public to see that we are connected to you.
Yes. Has anyone done this?
No.
No, we didn't.
No. But it's a good idea.
It's a good idea, yes.
What do you think would happen if because it's really hard. Everyone's inside, and depending on where you live, whether it's a city or more rural, if you can't go outside, but there's, I know that Italy and a couple of other places at a certain time in the evening, everyone comes outside and sings. But depending on where you live, can you think of any ways that you could engage with the public and get people engaged with this positive piece and making a pandemic peace pledge, even though you're separated? Do you think that there's some ways you could do that? What would you think would be a good way in your community? A post on your window, a sign on the street, on a business? What would be a good idea? How could you build peace, inexpensively? And what can you do today? How could you get started? Love to hear your ideas.
So what we can do, just print a word that's a positive word that will change the side of this period for our neighbors, and we can put it on the window or on the la porte. On the windows and also in our cars windows. Why not?
Yeah, here I'm seeing a lot, and I know that Accord and a couple other places are using Alone Together. And so they'll say, like, you're not alone, especially for people who are really suffering from loneliness, being really disconnected from their family, maybe someone's sick. I love the idea. What else could you do to build, what would work in your community to build peace and let people know you're thinking about them?
Actually, in Tunisia, there's many people who get out to the rooftop or the balcony and play music and DJing, dancing with their neighbors, and that's as Italy, they did that too.
That's fantastic. That's amazing.
Yes.
What about for others? Tell us what you could do or what's already working. What could you, because also if you are doing something, I'd love for you to share it in the group and we can try to get other people.
In Madagascar, for example, we started again, as we are a touristic destination. We started to have this idea of sharing positive memories, positive moments we spend in a beautiful place wherever it can be, and we started it on Facebook, and by sharing pictures of beautiful moments uh, at the beach or wherever it can be, and without any other description, but we try to involve more people, and in that time we try to share hope, that these have an end, that we're all in it and we will all get over it. And also, I'm very thankful to all the communication operators here, like Orange Madagascar, Telma, or Airtel. They decided to have a very, 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 very low price of internet access so that everyone can get internet uh, for Facebook, Instagram, and whatever, those for social media, so that people can still interact between them. And I think this is a great thing. And also, we have these, this is very funny, we have those people started to have those challenges, like posting videos, funny videos, and sharing it with friends, and to get everyone, all of their friends involved, participating in it. And I think these are very good moments, because at the same time, even if we are at home, we still do things together. We still have fun, and we forget a little bit about the idea of isolation or anything like that. Even if only few towns in Madagascar are isolated, but everyone participate in that from every cities, and I think this is very interesting.
Yeah, I'm just imagining what it must be like to have no tourists, and that it would be a beautiful time to take pictures when it's not
Yes.
crowded with tourists and all that. What would you all think about doing a Pan-African peace challenge where we all try to get, it could actually be global. It could be global or it could be across Africa. Do you want to come up with a social media campaign to get everyone together? We could use like the Make a Pandemic Peace Pledge, or we could even use the Build Peace in a Pandemic. Would you be interested in doing maybe a social campaign to see how many people we could get to say that they're committed, or that they're interested in knowing their neighbors? What do you think?
Yeah, that would be great. I think that would be a good thing.
What should it look like? Which the hashtag? Do you want it to be Build Peace in a Pandemic? Do you want it to be Pandemic Peace Pledge? Do you want it to be like we're all in this together? What are you interested in doing? How can we make it, how can we connect you further with your communities and across everyone? Because I'm gonna make sure that you're also in contact with folks everywhere. You could use songs in your videos. You could do songs. You could do we could do an international dance party where everyone does a dance or shares music. What do you think? What can we do?
So why not? I propose to our GCI members to make a karaoke time.
Yes. Yes. I so want to participate in like a pandemic karaoke challenge.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yes. Okay. That would make me so happy.
Okay, when we will organize the session, we will call you.
Okay. Oh, this is gonna be amazing. Oh, that would be so amazing. You know, wow. Okay. Well, so I want to let everyone know about a few more resources that are available on the Peace is Possible global application. So there is a page that says how to build peace in a pandemic. And so I know that everyone is mentioned that in areas that do have connectivity, that people have been participating in lots of different trainings. So I will be putting some resources together and linking them on the page in the application. Has everyone been able to go to the website? Or I guess I should say, has anyone had problems getting onto the website? Okay. Well, once you get in there, the setup of the website is there's a learning center, and the learning center has information about human rights, sustainable development goals, what the different parts of peace are, all the information that I shared today. There's also links to wherever you are, whatever language you speak and your community speaks, there will be a link under every human right for you to see and hear the human rights said in your own language. And so if you're looking for content to share with your members about human rights or sustainable development goals, there's lots and lots of videos available. There will be links on each of the human rights pages. There's also International Peace Day, which is September 21st. The founder of that, Jeremy Gilley, who is a partner in this coalition, there's a link to his TED Talk and that is translated into 34 languages as well. And so if people are looking for something to watch to get them inspired to engage for building peace, then this is a really great resource. And it's like I said, it's translated for you on the page. And there's also tons of different ways for people just to start getting excited to talk about peace. And also, what I think is so exciting is that there's a lot of things that you're already doing. And so especially in an organization like JCI, almost everything that people have done in JCI is related to positive peace. So if you're doing entrepreneurship, then that has to do with human capital and a strong business environment. If you're doing community efforts to make sure that everyone in your community has their rights, or you're making sure that everyone's really included, all the different groups, then that's accepting the rights of others. The whole idea of JCI being international is good relationships with your neighbors. And so it's a really great warm-up to also recognize that the work that you already do and that everything that you've already been doing is peace building, and it counts towards peace building. And for those organizations who want to apply for awards or who want to be recognized, or they're not sure what category their project falls into, anything that has to do with the 8 pillars of positive peace is a peace project. And so that's something we want everyone to know. And then also there's award entries for people who want to train people or work towards the SDGs. And so that resource is available for you too if you want to do projects, because a lot of the times you're already doing projects that have to do with the Sustainable Development Goals, but you don't maybe know which one. So all of the SDGs and their targets are in there for you. Something that everyone can do, this is a fantastic resource. I only was able to brush over the parts of positive peace today briefly, but there is a Positive Peace Academy, and it is held by the Institute of Economics and Peace and Rotary International, and it's an available resource for everyone in your chapters, in your cities, and your organizations. And so if you go through, there's a couple of different modules. This is available, and it has fantastic resources, and it also explains how everything works together for both positive and negative peace. So this is a free resource available for you. It's really comprehensive. I think they did a really good job. I think it's available in English, but I'll check and see if I can find any translations. There's also 3 incredible trainings that you have access to through our partner, the Ban Ki-moon Center. And one of them is this Understanding Conflicts and the Process of Peaceful Resolution. It's focused specifically on the African context. And so this is a free resource that everyone can take. Also for the Ban Ki-moon Center, there's the Becoming Global Citizens course. It is fantastic. It's fantastic. It's so good. It provides a lot of incredible opportunities to learn. The speakers who come in and teach the modules are all world-class trainers, and it's really a fantastic resource. And then also anyone in your organization who's interested in advancing gender equality, there's the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment as it relates to the SDG. There's another resource that I'll share, which is the Stg Academy, which is a free resource that teaches everyone about each of the SDGs and what you can do in your community. So these are some things that people can do. And if you want to, you could have, as far as project ideas, this Understanding Conflict in the Process of Peaceful Resolution, you could have people go through this course. And then if you would like to, have people from your chapter or yourselves record a video of what you learned, and I can add that to the platform. So if you want to be heard, or people in your chapter want to make a project out of recording videos for what's in this, what content is available, then I can add it to the web page, and then you could be famous around the world, be seen by millions of people. And I'd love to make sure that everybody has gotten a chance to enter into the Peace is Possible Global Facebook group, and that if you're able to invite everyone that you know, there is no organizational requirement or age requirement to join. And so invite everyone you know to have some of these live conversations, and I'll see if we can get the, I really want to hear about your karaoke project. And if you share it in here, we can get people from 166 countries to participate, which I would love. And that would be amazing. And so now I'd like to, be able to answer any questions that you have about peace, structural violence, cultural violence, any questions that you have. Please raise your questions now. I'd like to answer them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your wonderful delivery of the session. So my question goes as, for the 4 or 5 years that you have been working around peace, especially in Africa, are you satisfied with the responses that you are getting in terms of the level at which peace has been relatively achieved in countries that you have worked in Africa? The secondly is that I know you have an organization. What are you doing to expand your presence in countries, especially in Africa, that you don't have a linkage with? Thank you.
Could you type your 2 questions for me? I heard the peace terms. I didn't catch your question entirely. Could you please help me by typing it out for me? Thank you for working with my hearing.
Okay.
If any other ones have questions about structural or other parts of the presentation, you can just talk.
Yeah, also if there's an area where you're looking for partners to work with you, please, please put it in the chat, the text, so I can respond and I can read what you're saying. And another question that I want to ask is, what would you need to build positive peace in your community? So if you need information or content or images, please let me know what you might need and I'll see what I can do to get it to you. Am I satisfied with the level of peace achieved in African countries that you have worked in the last years?
So what we need to build the positive peace in our community, for example, we can use the resource that you have in your website. Peace is possible, and we will be inspired to see what will be the things that we can do and will be beneficial to our community. So what we can need, it's resources and some ideas that can be beneficial for our community, and it will be easy for us to launch as a JCI community, because as you know, for projects we are not we are just not beneficial, we don't have money. So for projects we search sponsoring to execute the projects. So we need just the small options that we can do to build peace without needing a lot of options, a lot of money, or needing to call a sponsor for the project.
Okay, thank you. I was able to hear you. So for everything that is on the learning platform, you can open up and deliver as a training. And all of the content that's available in these additional 4 courses, if you need content for projects, you can have someone on your team go through these and then train the other people in your organization on what they said. These are completely free. There's no cost for membership at all. And so those are free resources that everyone can access, just in case it wasn't clear. And so as far as the question we had a very good question, and that is, Am I satisfied with the level of peace achieved in African countries that I have worked with in the past few years? That's the first question. And what I'd like to say is, in addition to training individuals on the two different types of positive peace and negative peace, for the last few years, I have also gone through every single metric that exists for every country as it relates to positive peace, negative peace, the Sustainable Development Goals, and there's also there's several different indexes that measure different things. And one thing that I've been really paying attention to is the Fragile State Index, which is an additional assessment tool to see how countries are doing. And so one thing that I want to mention is that this is two tools that are used to measure the overall negative and positive peace for countries. But there's these other instruments that are being used. And so while I'm very excited to see the countries that I've been working with Africa, what I did for the last few years is I went through and I looked for countries who on this blue map had really high levels of positive peace or even medium levels of positive peace, but they had orange or yellow or red on the Global Peace Index. And I've been working with those countries over here to get stronger and to have those stronger relationships with others and to reinforce their acceptance of the rights of others, so that when something happens and when there's a shock, like we talked about, that they would be more resilient. And people who I've been working with, I worked with people this year in Zimbabwe, Botswana. Who else have I worked really closely with over the last year? There's been a couple of other partners who are doing very, very well. But overall, what I would say for people and am I happy about it? I would say that one thing that I would like people to know is that they have more power to create peace across the African continent by doing these things that we've talked about, and that they may not know, because do you want to build peace is such an abstract concept, that they might not know that the good relationship that they have with a neighbor, or that they watch someone else's child while they go to work or school, or the partnerships that exist, that's actually peace building, and that they're making their communities stronger and they're making their communities more resistant. And so I think that what I really am hoping for the future for this is to let communities know, especially in Africa, that they have this power to drive forward positive peace, which can kind of transform this negative peace. And another thing that I'm really interested in doing is I've come up with kind of targeted peace project plans for different countries, so that if you are in a country that has very high, let's say if you spoke up, then you would experience violence. So if you said, like, I don't like the corruption in my city, or I don't like the government, then you would get attacked or harmed. So I like to also make sure that people know what they can change directly as an individual and what's not safe. And so those are some things that I think about. And then what is my future plan to extend the organization to countries that you don't have presence in? And who is the contact person in Nigeria, if you have, because I would like to be part of them? Sure. I'm so thankful that you typed that out. So Nigeria is heavily involved. I've been working with, I've worked with Stallone, I've worked with Philip. I have a whole list of individuals that I worked with. And last year, I got to stay at the hotel in Mauritius for the African conference with the Nigerians. So we got a chance to hang out. So I'll send you the contacts there. And what I'm also doing to build out the presence in Nigeria. So I have people in Edo State, Abuja, I always say it wrong. I have them in a couple of different pockets. And so I'm also working with a couple of other international organizations. So I work with LENIM, which is an organization working to advance gender equality. I work with the United Nations Foundation, both in malaria, gender equality, but also in technology. And so I'm trying to find the pockets in every country where there isn't a team together so far, and to connect them. And so right now, my next steps in Nigeria I would like to hear what people need. So I've been working with some folks there. I'll send you their contact information. Please send me an email. So please email me. And I will connect you. There's also, I work with a couple of international organizations that are part of the State Department for the United States, which brings in leaders from every sub-Saharan African country. And so they come into Seattle, and then once they're in Seattle, I connect them back with the people who are in their local chapters. That's something that's happened for Tunisia and Mali and Nigeria and Zimbabwe and South Africa, Lesotho, and that's been a lot of fun to connect people internationally. You're very, very welcome. And so there's definitely more people to reach out to. And I've been doing that also through the Facebook group. You're very, very welcome. I've been doing that through the Facebook group as well, so that once people come into the Facebook group, then I know where they are. I keep track of where everyone is. And so when someone new joins the group, then I can let them know this is the person who's probably not part of your organization, but they live where you live. You can combine resources. And so try to make those connections to make sure that the ecosystem is very strong. And every time someone joins that group, it's adding to the, it's adding peace because it's adding to the ecosystem. I'm also working with Accord, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Can I stop? I think I stopped. Did that stop it? Okay. I'm going to send out to all of you the Accord, which is based in South Africa, which is doing all those intergenerational dialogues. They just sent out these really amazing tools for Africa. Yes, I can. And so they have a really incredible tool set that they just released, and I will send that to everyone because it lets you know what's happening, and also ways that you can report if anything's happening and let people know. Let's see. Are there any other questions or comments or any resources that you would need? And I'll see who I know. I'm currently trying to get about 150 more people in.
Thank you for sharing for us all the communities and all your website, that we can have a lot of things that will help us to build peace in our community.
Of course, you're welcome. In the Peace is Possible Facebook group, there's also an image for every country that will let you know what your peace ranking is. And so when you go to Facebook and you join this group, you'll be able to access the photo albums. And so look for Africa and the Middle East, and then look for your country, and I'll be able to let you know, you'll be able to see what your peace ranking is. And I can kind of give you an update on how many people have participated in your country if you're interested. I might post it for you all today so that you can access it without looking too far. And then please, everyone, if you're on LinkedIn, you can find me. If you have any future questions, let me know. And one additional thing that's possible is that as people create their accounts in the Peace is Possible global application, I can send out research. If you want to do a Pan-African outreach, I can create a group where all the people from Africa are, and I can send a push message that'll go to everyone across Africa. So if you want to do a project that's, you know, really getting everyone involved, I can help you with that. I can help you reach everybody.
Sumaya?
Yes, you can talk, Sihan.
Yeah, I'm Sihan. I would like to share with you a small experience with the Peace is Possible campaign.
Okay.
GCI Grand Ouarzazate each year organized a iftar in Ramadan, which a special month. This iftar gained more than 100 persons around a table of different cultures and different religions. And it is beautiful activities to express peace the different way.
That is one of my favorite projects of all time. I have gone through every chapter and every national organization's page to see what they've been doing for peace as possible, and also to collect all of the data because it was not in a centralized location. And I found that project for the last 2 years, and I have goosebumps talking about it. I love that project. I love that project so much, and I've been wondering how you'll do it this year, with there being it being difficult to do. And so will you be able to do this virtually, or how will it work? And also, thank you for doing that project. I love that project so much. It's amazing.
Thank you, Ashley. Alors, every year we honored a community, and this year, inshallah, in the future, after this pandemic period, we will be honored the people who have sacrificed our life, like doctors or who persons who have traveled and sacrificed lives in this pandemic period.
That's incredible. Please let me know when you do that project. That's one of my favorites. One of my favorites around the world. There's a couple that really hit me right in the heart, and that's really one of them. Another one is people who've been doing parades. It's hard to do a parade if you can't be around other people or go outside, but people who've done different parades where there's lots of music and dancing to get everyone engaged. So thank you for all you're doing. It's incredible, incredible. It moves me. It moves me all the time. Would anyone else like to say any final words before we wrap up the training for today?
Oh yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. That was our president Siham, Mrs. Siham, talking about the very important project that we organize in GCI Grand Ouarzazate each year. And this year it will be a little bit a problematic issue because we cannot organize it in the field. We cannot do Talk for Peace, but then the concept and its perception and its understanding is all over the city and all over the country. We organize Talk for Peace to gather people from different backgrounds, from different religions, from different cultures to talk and discuss peace, to build networks between them. And that's one of the most important things that we need all over the world. And as an addition for that, I would like to rise an issue of peace, of spreading peace throughout the world. I am a teacher of English and I'm a curriculum specialist, and they found out through understanding, through reading and discussing curriculums of different countries all over the world, that they lack this issue, or they lack this option of spreading the peace through education. And that's one of the most problems that we have in Morocco too. I'm not saying that Morocco is the best, but we have that problem too. But then if you look even to the developed countries like the United States, like Europe, like Japan, they still have something that does not tackle peace in their educational curriculum. And the question is, don't you see that to push peace in all over the world, we need to do it through education, from the childhood to the universities? Thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you very much for everything.
Yes, of course. So you are absolutely right. Let me see if I can get to this resource for you. Okay. I absolutely agree with you. And by this evening, my time, so tomorrow, your time, there is a resource available for you. I understand that it's a systemic issue and there's lots of barriers, but I do want to let you know that our partner Peace One Day has released a peace education for people who are homeschooling, people who are in the educational system, to teach peace internationally to children in the education system. But it is absolutely a massive opportunity for people to take peace education into schools. So what I will do is I will add those resources to the application, and I'll post them in the Facebook group too, because I've just gotten word of them. And there's a couple of other special ways to get youth involved with peace. And there's a special page in the application, and it's called the Role of Youth in Peacebuilding. And so I do want to let you know that that's available, and it talks about the participation and the protection and the way that young people need to be involved in the peace development across the world. And so your idea is amazing, because that is how the people would be able to participate, is if they have that information. So I'll make sure to send those out. I think they're translated, but I'll double check. Thank you for mentioning that, and thank you for all you're doing and noticing that. It is missing. I just got so excited because they just sent me that resource, so I promised to send it to you. They just said, I just asked them, said, how can I spread information? They're like, we have this whole new education platform. So I promised to send that out to you. Okay. Anyone else? No?
Anyone others? There is a question in the discussion, in the chat. I think it's Tanya. She's asking about. So you answer her. So that's good.
I would like to ask Ashlea if she can help us, because in Madagascar, I think our one of our hugest issues to get to real peace is also one of the reason why people think we live in peace. We have this peace. This, I think it's about this problem of tolerance. It's in Malagasy what we call fiavanana, and fiavana, that means actually family. And I think we have a lot of problems from that. Of course, because of that, thanks to that, people tolerate a lot in Madagascar in order to avoid conflicts. But also at the same time, this tolerance can create huge problems like inequalities, and it's something that we have to face every day in every single field. But again, because of this tolerance, people don't talk about it. And I think this is one of our hugest problem in here. For example, when we talk about education, people, I can say that people living in the capital, in Antananarivo, they always get more opportunities than people in the provinces. And I also give an example, like for jobs, it's always the same problems, as we don't have the same opportunities at education. Of course, it's complicated for young people from the provinces, from the peripheries, to get the same knowledges, the same level as people in the capital, in the center. And because of that, once those young people will grow up, they will have a lot of difficulties finding job. And even here in the provinces, it's difficult for local people to get good jobs, because the huge the huge institution, every single institution, not just the huge ones, they will give more, they will give those opportunities, those jobs, to people from the center.
I think we might have lost her for a second. She's explaining what she's mentioning. Are you back? Tilly?
I think she has a problem with the network. She's back.
Would you like to finish telling us about Madagascar, Tilly? Okay. She might be having a hard time with the network. I do want to let you all know that what she's talking about, the barriers for folks in the capital versus the provinces, that's an example of structural violence. Would you like to talk again? No, we cannot. She might be talking, but we can't hear her. And so there's also a training from JCI so the app has 3 sessions. One of them is the Learning Center, another is toolkits from partners and courses, and the third is how to act for peace. And in the tools and resources from other partners, there's a change perceptions training from JCI about how to get people to talk a little bit more about peace and these different types of concepts, so that then they can start talking about, well, the fact that the opportunities for education and jobs is separate, then that's an area that you need to fix, that you need to have a conversation about, because it's not peaceful, it's not equitable. And so there is a training that starts the conversation, and so I'd love to put together some more resources for you for Madagascar. I understand that's really hard when folks that come from the higher opportunities then even come into the provinces and take over the jobs. And that's a really good example also of when there's low levels of human capital. And so it relates exactly to peace. So there's a low level of human capital in those young people who aren't getting the correct education that they need to thrive in the jobs. And so then those people that have like a lower level of human capital and social capital are not getting the jobs. And so it messes with the sound business environment. So that's kind of a shock that we were talking about. She's gonna write it. Okay, if anyone else has additional questions, I'd love to hear them. You can also send them over. I appreciate those who speak a different language, including French, who have made it along with me speaking English quite rapidly. I appreciate your English skills, because my French is 0. I have no French, so I appreciate it. And let me know anything else that you might need. I'd be happy to help you all. Thank you so much for hosting this training. There will also be an international peace summit coming up out of JCI Morocco. We're in the planning stages. And so please keep an eye out for that. We'll be sure to post it in the Facebook group so everyone's invited.
Thank you, Ashlea, for this great presentation. I can add, if anyone wants to ask, even in French, we can make a traduction for the questions. If not, we really enjoyed this presentation. It was full of information and resources that can help us to build peace in our communities in Africa. Why not? And we will be happy to invite you here after the pandemic for any project that we organized for peace. I also I'm very thankful also for all the participants to be here today, and also it's the first day for us, or in Ramadan it's difficult for people to come, and they are here. Thank you for you all. And I am very thankful also for all the JCI organizers for these trainings. You did a good job, and you did something that was incredible behind topics that it's very incredible, that is the peace. What I can do now, if anyone wants to add something, you can do that. And if not, I invite each one from the JCI, each VP from each JCI to make this last word.
Sumaya?
Yes. Yes,
I'm Siham from Ouarzazate, Morocco.
yeah.
Alors, I would like to thank our dear and sympathetic formatrice for this moment of enjoyment and learning, and all the organizing and participating organization, the local president here, and also members JCs of all Africa. And as you say, the peace is not abstract concept. It is a tangible concept. It is concrete, and this act of this forum is an action of peace. And we will practice peace by sharing positivity and giving hope after this pandemic period. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for organizing. I know that some people have some very important things to do and also have to eat in the near future, so I'm excited for you all. And thank you again, and I can't wait to be in touch with all of you.
Okay.
Now, you want to talk? Ines, I think.
Yes, thank you. First, I want to talk about something. It's a problem here in Tunisia. We are suffering from, you know, in this pandemic period, the wife and husband obliged to be together all the time. So unfortunately, we are suffering from the violence against the woman. You know, some people don't know how to talk in peace and calmly. So they will fight and practice violence against the women. I hope they deal with it so soon. The government deal with it so soon. This is what I want to say. And second, I want to thank you so much for your presence and the presentation and accepting to be with us today. And also I want to thank all the participants and other GCI VP. And I hope it's not the last one to work together and to be with us again. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone that want to talk? From African GCI?
Yeah, it's very
Yes.
important. It's very important to tackle peace in this world. It's very important to discuss it through social media. It's very important to talk about it. It's very important to organize events that aim at spreading peace in all over the parts of the world, and they can see from everyone's comments that everyone here is very interested in building peace, in spreading peace, in organizing things that will aim at developing peace between people from all over the world. And for that, thank you very much for the talk today, and see you in another time.
Is there any other comments or questions?
Yes, please. Yeah. Okay. Once again, actually, let me thank you for the industry that you expanded during your presentation. It worthwhile the time, and like you said during your presentation, I think this pandemic has also offered a lot of opportunity that we can tap in terms of leveraging our technology. It's nice that I'm in Nigeria and I was listening to you in Faraway where you are, and a couple of other young activists also join us from different parts of Africa. So let me, on behalf of the organizer of this conference, say thank you for the industry that you expanded in your presentation, and looking forward to more collaboration, more doing a lot of great things around peace in Africa and indeed all over the world with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comment?
Yes, Sumaya, please.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this. I want to thank Ashley for this useful presentation. We had a lot of fun trying to get a lot of new information about peace and how we can build peace in our societies. Thank you so much for anyone for participating in this. I want to say thank you for my friend Islam because he said a lot of beautiful things, and as active citizens, and we know that in JCI we're working in a active citizen framework. That active citizen framework should teach us how to act in our society in order to build peace and change a problem to a solution or something like that. And that's what we're trying to do. Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you so much, Sumaya. Thanks. Thank you so much for the organizers for this beautiful opportunity. We look forward see a lot of these trainings during this pandemic period. And thank you so much. That's it.
You are welcome. Any other comments before we close this training?
Please, Sumaya, I forgot a little thing. I just want to ask Ashley about any type of documentation we need about this topic of today. Please, can you send anything like documentations, articles, anything?
Yes, of course.
Yes, I can. And I also will make sure that so as long as everyone comes to the group, and then I'll promise to make sure that you all get it. I'll keep an eye on where people are coming from today, and I'll put a star next to your name and send you all some information.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we are so grateful for this great presentation, and also for all the participants. We want to send. We will send you an attestation, a certificate for this presentation. It's not. We will send this by email, inshallah. And thank you a lot of all things that you shared for us and all the resources you shared with us. And I will say yes for peace in Africa. Peace is possible in Africa, and we will put a great project and call you to make it really a concrete things. Thank you, and thank you for all the GCI organizers. I think we clear. If any one of from the organizers want to add something, so you can do it. So I think there is no other comments. We are very thankful for this amazing presentation. And I will say bye. And it's not the last time. It was just the first time. We will have another opportunities in the future. Bye.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.